Yasir Qadi has doubts in Islam regarding the preservation of the Quran and regarding evolution. Yasir Qadi has always struck me as a rational individual, a person of academic integrity. I always suspected that he may end up agnostic one day. He has come out and said his faith has taken a major blow, that he has come close to a crisis of faith. This is an important development because it shows that even the most strong believers, ones who study the religion in depth, are not immune to the problems in the faith. The narrative of Islam we have been taught is false, and it falls apart under scrutiny. In emails that Sheikh Yasir sent to a private list that were leaked August 2016, he admits he had doubts regarding the preservation of the Quran. Yasir Qadi states, I am personally aware of around a dozen Muslims in academia who had major crises of faith, and perhaps one who has left the faith because of this issue. And I have also confessed on this list that my own personal crisis of knowledge, I wouldn't really call it a faith crisis, although perhaps it came close, was when I entered into this realm during my first year at Yale and felt my world come crashing down in front of me. I didn't know what to believe about the hifz, preservation of the Quran anymore because there was no alternative. You either had non-Muslim views or the simplistic, standardized, triumphalistic claims that a rational mind simply cannot acknowledge as true. So he's saying that because of what he learned, his world has come crashing down, that dozens of Muslims in academia had major crises of faith by studying this content, that he doesn't know how to make sense of the preservation of the Quran anymore. This mirrors what Noman Ali Khan said about his friend.
For example, I have a friend who's in Harvard at the Islamic Studies program. And I met him, he was getting his master's, then he was going to get into his PhD, again, Islamic Studies. He's not even done with his master's. I went to Boston and I was hanging out with him, and what does he tell me? He says, man, after the 2 semesters, I lost my faith. And the only way I can actually continue my studies is that I stop thinking about it. Because if I think about it, I can't keep my iman anymore. It's gone.
Why is it that studying Islam in Western universities makes Muslims lose faith? Because Islam cannot survive scrutiny. These are believers who have no desire to become disbelievers, but end up either doing so or coming close to it, despite their best efforts not to.
Like, I was one of the first people that's doing a PhD from an Ivy League. Now I have 10 years in Medina. I still don't know anybody who's done something like this. I mean, and I'm being honest with you. You're all Tulab al-Ilm and have studied Islamic sciences. Wallahi, I'll be honest with you. The shubuhats that I was exposed to at Yale, some of them I still don't have answers to.
This is a man who studied at Medina University for over 10 years. Being exposed to the academic analysis on Islam has created doubts in his mind he cannot answer. Do you think students in Medina are exposed to academic arguments? No, of course not. Medina University's entire purpose is to pump out more Muslim sheikhs who will propagate Islam further. They only present one narrative, the dominant one, without question. The preservation of the Quran cannot then be a letter for letter, tashkil for tashkil narrative that later scholars verbalized and the Muslim Ummah is taught. He's saying that letter for letter, dot for dot preservation cannot be true. That is the conclusion of this topic. But there's another topic that Yasir Qadi discussed that blew me away. It is on the topic of evolution. Science tells us that the story of Adam and Eve is unscientific. It goes against what we know about common ancestry of humans. Adam and Eve is a myth that was created to explain our origins, but it is not true. I was so impressed that Yasir Qadi made the following statement because it goes against the narrative of Islam. In the video, Theological Debate on Evolution, Yasir Qadi says about Adam and Eve,
it is clear that the theory of evolution is considered to be a scientific fact amongst large segments of the world. Indeed, some have argued that there is almost ijma', consensus, amongst the scientific community that all life as we know it, including human life, originated from a universal common ancestor. The primary opposition to this theory seems to come almost exclusively from religious circles who view their scriptures as providing an alternative explanation of the origins of life. However, in the case of the story of Genesis, of the story of Adam, we have such an explicit narrative, one that is deeply rooted in countless passages throughout the Quran and throughout the Sunnah, that there is no choice other than to accept that this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet intended for us to believe. The sheer quantity and diversity of nouns, adjectives, and verbs used simply makes any linguistic reinterpretation or ta'wil so imaginative, so fanciful as to render such an endeavor mere hermeneutical gymnastics, fun to look at but of no practical value. Frankly, there is no logical way for a Muslim to contradict this entire account, A to Z, verse by verse and hadith by hadith, except by claiming that the whole story is a fable, it's allegorical, it's something that God wished to appease and hold in check those of lower intellectual backgrounds, and it's not meant to be understood at face value. Now, such a claim might actually make more sense logically, but it leads to disastrous and blasphemous implications about Allah Azza wa Jal, about Allah's truthfulness, about the function of the Prophet ﷺ, and about the role of the Quran.
This is a shocking statement to hear from a Muslim preacher. He's saying that it's only believers who contradict science because of what the holy books say. He's saying it would make more sense if the entire account of Adam and Eve was a fable. Again, he is saying that it would be more logical, that it would make more sense to believe that what Islam tells us is a fable. But this has blasphemous and disastrous implications for Islam, in his own words. In conclusion, Islam has major problems. This is why Yasir Qadhi's faith was shaken when studying at Yale, because when it is put under the light of scrutiny, Islam falls apart.